Hello fellow Misfortunates, what if I told you that this Varus player actually found the solution to all our problems? If you ever played even just one game of AD carry in your life, you definitely know what I'm talking about. Every single enemy player will start tunnel visioning whenever they spot you and instantly roll their heads across their keyboards to kill you as fast as possible. And they do this, well, because it works. Always. But this Varus player didn't want to just sit there and take it anymore. They were sick and tired of brain-dead assassins who can jump in and kill AD carries at will. So this Varus player found a very promising approach that allows them to bait enemies who are trying to do exactly that. They go in, as usual, try to kill the immobile and squishy AD carry, as usual, only to fail miserably and get killed themselves. Wait, what? Yeah, this new ADC setup is so satisfying because not only do you get to live and actually play the game, but you also still deal tons of damage. So how do you do this? And especially, how do you do this on Varus? This champion has low movement speed and zero mobility in his kit. How could you ever avoid enemy assassins who try to burst you? All Varus can really do is purchase Gale Force to potentially get a lucky outplay every 90 seconds. So yeah, the obvious answer is you don't. Instead of running away or somehow dodging an assassin's engage, who by the way can always catch you from a screen length away, this Varus player straight up face tanks everything. And lives. The key to that strategy is a combination of Immortal's Shield Bow and the Minor Rune conditioning. I mean, Shield Bow is nothing new, and the item even got nerfed. It is almost like Riot actually wants AD carries to be squishy just so the other players have an easy target and can have more fun. Why else would you take away from our most important defensive option and then buff Yone and Yasuo immediately after? It makes no sense, does it? Anyway, Shield Bow, despite being nerfed, still increases your health by a lot. The Mythic passive grants you 50 health per legendary item, the shield is, for all intents and purposes, bonus health too, and lifesteal is also effectively just a flat health pool that grows larger and larger the more you can auto-attack. And this is why conditioning is so genius here. At first glance, many people think that this rune would be best used by tank champions because of the 5% increase, which means that every bit of resistances in form of items is 5% more gold efficient. However, armor and magic resist are more valuable the less you already have, which means the 9 flat armor and magic resist are incredibly strong on squishy marksman champions. This flat value messes hard with the opponent's damage numbers as resistances feed into all the bonus health from Shield Bow. The synergy is even better than it looks, because not only do the bonus health and shield get more valuable, but the longer you stay alive, the more extra health you will get from Shield Bow's lifesteal component, which is itself also more valuable due to the resistances. It is effectively a small feedback loop, making you incredibly tanky. Your enemies are going to waste all their cooldowns on you, and even if they manage to take you down, they pay far too much for it. Your teammates will be able to stay fairly healthy because you are the center of attention, but you still don't die fast enough. As a consequence, you yourself also get all your spells off and deal more than enough damage with auto attacks to win the fight for your team. The reason this approach works especially well with Varus is Varus' passive, which simply allows you to go berserk in teamfights while getting maximum value from lifesteal. I understand that all of this might sound a little too good to be true right now, so let's click the subscribe button and take a deep dive into this high elo solo queue game. The lane matchup is Thresh Varus versus Soraka Kai'Sa. Thresh is not really the best lane partner for Varus because Varus is a spell-based poke champion, whereas Thresh wants to go all in. However, since this Varus player goes with the keystone of lethal tempo, extended all-in fights are actually quite good for them too. And post level 6, the synergy between Thresh and Varus is in fact very strong all of a sudden, because one hook guarantees that you can land Varus' ultimate for crazy all-in potential. During earlier levels though, merely farming the wave is perfectly fine for you, because you don't want to unnecessarily fall behind before reaching your big power spikes. You should be safe enough here, because Varus' above average attack range allows you to position rather defensively while still getting all your farm. And even if you are getting zoned really hard, you can still resort to your Q to last hit low health minions from max range. Okay, so you have played nice and safe, you didn't overextend during your early lane phase, and you finally hit level 6. Now all you need to do is either wait for your jungler to start some action or for your support to land their hook. Once that happens, get ready to hit them with your nasty chain CC. Varus' ult hitbox is ridiculously wide and forgiving, but even if it wasn't, hitting a stunned target is always 100% free. From here, you use your E to consume your ult's blight stacks and then start stacking blight again with lethal tempo to finally execute with your empowered Q. If your enemy is careless enough, your ultimate will start spreading to them and you can simply keep going. Against your stacked lethal tempo in combination with your passive steroid, they won't stand a chance. While your ultimate is a crazy teamfighting tool which pretty much guarantees that you will be useful no matter what, it is also a great safety net you can use in a pinch. Let's say you, I don't know, greed for that tower plating for example when you really shouldn't, Varus' ult will allow you to disengage for free. Again, the hitbox is so extremely wide that you will hit any opponent who doesn't predict and dodge it with their flash. You can probably already guess, but it is of course way better to not overextend. Even when your ultimate can save you in most cases, you always want to have it ready for potential teamfights. This ult is Varus' biggest selling point, and you don't want to waste it only because you were greedy. When the enemy team has a hyper-fed Qiyana, like in this game for example, you definitely want to make sure you keep her locked down so she cannot just pop off and kill all of you. It is perfectly fine to use this spell to quickly eliminate the first target, because then your passive will start taking over and allow you to go wild should the teamfight continue from there. Okay, but you know, human error exists and needs to be accounted for. So what happens when your positioning is just not on point and you even manage to waste your ultimate hitting nobody? Aren't you now a sitting duck, an immobile AD carry out of options? Well, normally yes. Any assassin can now freely approach and one-shot you. However, this is where shield bow and conditioning come into play. You stay in the back and auto-attack as much as possible, so you still deal some damage and force the enemy to react. With any other Varus build, you would pay with your life, since burst damage and target access are way too high in League of Legends nowadays. Yet, this defensive setup lets you survive way more than the enemy can dish out, which includes a fed Vladimir. The enemy hard commits to try and kill you because they have learned that an AD carry is always completely helpless. But not you. You simply walk away. And keep in mind, they used everything they had on you, which now also makes it easier for your teammates to clean up because the enemy's spells are still on cooldown. Okay, so we had Varus' ult as follow-up, as disengage, and how to play when you completely miss it. But most importantly for solo queue, Varus can be a true playmaker when you use his ult to engage yourself. It has huge catch potential, and you can essentially treat it like a shorter ranged Ashe arrow. Varus notices that Kai'Sa is trapped in a choke point near the jungle wall, so there is no chance she can dodge the skill shot. All you need to do is pull the trigger, and even with random solo queue teammates, this is an unmistakable sign for your allies to go in. Picks like these are huge in ranked games because they allow you to take stuff with numbers advantage, and most importantly, they are extremely tilting for your enemies. So you might think that this defensive Varus setup would be lacking in terms of damage, since picking defensive runes and items always implies foregoing more offensive options. However, Varus' kit is so overloaded with damage that you will hardly feel it. You still execute low health targets with your maxed out Q arrow, and your attack speed steroids in combination with your % max health damage is crazy against tanks and bruisers. Just look at this fed Yorick. He can never one-shot you through your shields and resistances, and you simply melt him with your blight stacks and auto attacks for the massive shutdown. Anyway, after such a fight, your shield bow is on cooldown. You are low on health, and we all know what is happening inside this Qiyana's brain. She is conditioned to just jump on any marksman she sees, and being as fed as she is, she doesn't think twice about it. Assuming you just drop dead when she merely looks at you, she doesn't even bother to connect her ultimate with the wall, and she gets what she deserves. After picking off the enemy jungler, blue team decides to start Baron, which is understandable. Especially with this attack speed focused Varus build, you can melt Baron, no problem. But the enemy doesn't like that, and you are now even lower on health than before. Yet the late game Vladimir still fails to kill you due to your magic resist and bonus HP. What a sad time to be a dive champion. But yeah, at this point you would be playing with fire, so just retreat for now. Okay, attempt number 2. Instead of trying to brute force Baron with low HP, why not go for a little trap this time around? Thresh is baiting for his team, and Varus instantly locks down the greedy Yorick to then melt him with % health damage. Vladimir's instincts kick in, and he immediately tries to one-shot you, but through exhaust and your magic resist, he doesn't even manage to trigger your shield bow. Just imagine how nice it must be to play AD carry and to be able to participate in actual fights without dying in a heartbeat. However, this is still solo queue, and you cannot prevent your teammates from dying all the time. And with them being dead, what are you gonna do if the enemy now attempts to take Baron? That's right, you go there and stop them. Of course, you won't survive 4 people focusing you down, but you will live long enough to deal some damage and to get your crucial ultimate off. This sets up a beautiful play for Yasuo, and while most of them survive, they are still low and forced off of Baron. Oh, and this play enabled a huge Nasus cleanup. If an ADC's death was ever worth it, then it is this one. And yeah, Varus' sacrifice ultimately did secure Baron. The next teamfight starts around the Dragon Pit for some reason. I mean, there isn't even a dragon there to fight over. But nonetheless, you just snipe the assassin with your ult from behind the wall and kill them with your huge damage before they can break free. With your passive and lethal tempo in full gear now, the enemy front line drops immediately. Again, your passive is the reason why even a single pick in a teamfight will swing everything heavily in your favor. This massive attack speed with your keystone removing the attack speed cap is just way too much for any opponent. No one can out-DPS Machine Gun Varus. Your reward is the enemy's first inhibitor, and now you can simply reset and start pressuring the other lanes. And at this point, you can just steamroll the opponent. You are a late game hypercarry that cannot be one-shot killed even by fed assassins. You use your ult on whoever might be out of position and destroy the enemy lines front to back with your massive damage output. And you yourself probably also don't enjoy being one-shot fodder when playing AD carry, so while we are watching this Varus limit testing, I will give you the exact runes and items for this strategy. Your rune page is Lethal Tempo, Presence of Mind, Legend Alacrity and Coup de Grace with Conditioning and Overgrowth secondary. Your shards are Attack Speed, Adaptive Force and Armor, which you should swap for Magic Resist against a bot lane mage. Lethal Tempo is crucial for your damage output. Because you get so much attack speed from items and most importantly your passive, the ability to break the attack speed limit is a huge damage buff for you and also crucial if you want to get the most out of your lifesteal. Lethal Tempo's only drawback, as in you need to stack it up first, also gets nullified by your tankiness because you will always live long enough to reap its full benefits. Presence of Mind will be all the mana regeneration you ever need because you are mainly auto-attack based. Sure, in lane you max Q and you can still use it to poke or farm every now and then, but in teamfights you use your spells to execute with blight stacks. For these situations, the mana refund with each takedown is everything you could ever ask for. By the way, you max W second with this build and keep your E at 1 skill point. Your all-ins are just more important than poke damage. Legend Alacrity is recommended for a more reliable early and mid game, but Legend Bloodline is certainly also an option here for even more value from your resistance stats in the late game. Coup de Grace adds to your execute damage, and all the alternatives here would be too inconsistent for this build anyway. I've already talked in depth about the value of conditioning, as this rune is truly at the core of this entire strategy. Overgrowth adds even more tankiness to your late game, ensuring not even hyperscaling dive champions like Vladimir will ever be able to one-shot you. It will add more than 200 bonus HP to your late game health pool, which of course gets amplified by your resistances and buys you even more time to auto-attack and apply lifesteal. Oh, and I think I haven't talked about this yet, but you always take exhaust for your summoner spell and not heal. This is independent of this Varus build, as exhaust should be taken by every AD carry no matter what. Exhaust is a huge extra safety net and absolutely mandatory for you in the current burst-oriented meta. For your item build, you rush Berserker's Greaves and Shield Bow, no surprise there, and then you finish your core build with Ginzo's Rageblade. Varus is just the perfect Rageblade user, as he doesn't have crit scalings in his kit, but instead extra on-hit damage and tons of attack speed. The item is cheap, which means you spike sooner and get the health from your shield bow earlier, and it is highly gold efficient on any auto-attack based crit champion. Your remaining 3 item slots are very flexible, so pick any of the items shown on the screen in pretty much any order you see fit for your individual game. I recommend though that you always buy at least 1 Zeal item, or else your movement speed will be extremely low and prevent you from kiting effectively. Also, Blade of the Ruined King should be part of any finished build, because the percent on hit damage is crazy for taking down tanks in the late game. Additionally, you double your lifesteal with this purchase, and lifesteal is highly valuable due to the resistances from conditioning. A full example build that works in most matchups would be 4th item Wit's End, 5th item Blade of the Ruined King, and 6th item Runar's Hurricane. This Varus build is very consistent and strong in the current solo queue environment, but there are of course many different ways to play this champion. I personally think it is always helpful and educational to see how pro players are playing a champion in order to improve your own skills as an ADC main. So if you want to see how Varus is played on a professional level, you can watch a full pro player analysis by clicking the link on your screen right there.